Hello and welcome to another NeuroHub Live that is not on our usual day, but I don't care. So we're here to talk today about accessing healthcare, the world of healthcare, what it's like to be a patient, what it's like to be the healthcare professional. So I brought a healthcare professional with me.
Here I am.
The camera is doing a weird thing again. It just can't help itself.
It gets bored of you, David, and just wanders off.
The camera has ADHD. Okay, well, I'm going to start with the introduction. So I'm David Gray-Hammond. I'm CEO and founder of NeuroHub Community. I am a large Mediterranean male with a bald head, a beard, thick-rimmed glasses, a lip piercing, an ear stretcher, and I'm wearing a black t-shirt, sat in my studio on an armchair with a tree of life thing in the background. Adele, over to you.
Thank you. My name's Adele Murray. I also work at NeuroHub Community. I am a middle-aged white woman with dyed orange hair, big purple glasses on a granny chain because I lose my glasses if they're literally not tied to my head. And I'm wearing a hoodie that actually says "Good Girl" on it in sort of like rock. Oh, and I'm in my office, which also doubles as my craft space because I am obsessed with fiber arts, crochet and spinning in particular, if anybody wants to know.
Excellent. And whilst I've got you all here, I want to let you know that I am now on the Insight Timer app, which you can follow me on there by using the link on screen or by scanning this QR code in the top left. So I'm on Insight Timer. I have free meditations and talks on there. I've got one premium one upcoming, but please do go and follow me and check out my stuff. It's a really great app. It's got 36 million users, and I'm really excited to be on there doing neurodivergent designed mindfulness stuff.
Yes, and I think quite unique that what David offers is sort of mindfulness and meditations that are specifically tailored to neurodivergent people. So where mindfulness might not have worked for you in the past, a lot of it can be down to like PDA profiles where you're told to do something. Now you must do this, now you must do that, and suddenly your body goes, nope, I'm not doing it. Or even where in the instructions it's asking you to visualize and you have, like me, aphantasia, which means you don't have a visual memory, a visual imagination, a mind's eye, and those kind of things just don't work. So David's done some amazing things, and they're well worth checking out and having a look at. And also you get to hear his calming dulcet tones.
Thank you very much. So yeah, remember, link on the screen will take you to my Insight Timer profile. It's up there for 60 seconds if you want to try and write it down, or you can scan this QR code in the top left corner and that will also take you there. So yeah, we're gonna move on now because we're here to talk about healthcare, not about awesome mindfulness stuff. So I think you kind of had some points prepared that you wanted to discuss to begin with. So why don't we let you discuss your things?
Okay.
And then we'll get going. And remember, as you're watching, you can comment and we'll see the comments. Ask questions. Get involved in the discussion. We love talking to you all. So get involved.
Yeah, if you've got any questions, just ask me and I will do my best to answer.
Just type it in the comment section. We will see it. We can even pin it to the screen and we can answer your questions. So get those comments going and we'll answer them.
I've just seen in the comments as well, Helen Buckley 8883 says, hello, David and Adele. So hello.
Hello,
Helen. Welcome along. Thanks for coming. Nice to see you here. So, as I said before, my name's Adele Murray, and I used to be a healthcare professional. I was a fully qualified registered nurse, adult nurse. I worked in the NHS and also did a stint in private healthcare as well. And I was going to start by just talking about how I got into healthcare, because I think my journey into healthcare as a profession is a bit offbeat. It's not sort of the standard way of getting into healthcare, and I think that really exposes my neurodivergence quite well. Particularly, so I'm autistic and ADHD. I have only been diagnosed in the last 12 months for both conditions. Previous to that, I was diagnosed with panic disorder, social phobia, and agoraphobia. So that's what I thought I had all my life. But obviously now the autism and ADHD labels have
in the Texas Hold'em version of diagnosis, I have a hand that beats yours.
Oh yeah,
I'm autistic, ADHD, and schizophrenic. Diagnosed autistic 10 years ago, ADHD and schizophrenic about 3-4 years ago, and previous to that, I was diagnosed with emotionally unstable personality disorder and told I was a sociopath by a psychiatrist.
Funnily enough, it's more common for women to be diagnosed with that.
It is. I've written about it. We have blog posts on the NeuroHub community website.
But also, it's more common for women to be diagnosed with anxiety disorders before being diagnosed as autistic.
I wrote an article about how borderline personality disorder is the new hysteria.
Yes. So, yeah, we can... let's focus, David.
Focus on how I got into being. Save the tangents for later.
How I got into being a nurse. So I left school, doing my A-levels. I was kind of sort of sciencey, but also quite artistic, and had done well in my GCSEs, but completely crashed and burned for my A-levels. And that was because, now looking back, I'd had an autistic burnout. Didn't know what it was. That was kind of when I was diagnosed with the agoraphobia and everything. Basically, I just couldn't get out and about. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't be around people. It was all too much. So what do you do when you're 17 and you can't get out of the house? You move to Manchester with your boyfriend and cut yourself off from everybody you ever know. Well, that's what I did. And I started doing art at college, because I was quite arty, and I thought, that's quite low demand. And long story short, I ended up becoming a youth worker artist. So I used art to work with the young people in Manchester, sort of like kids who were excluded from school or were at risk of entering gang culture, that kind of thing. And I really, really enjoyed it. And what I loved most about it was the fact that I felt I could communicate better with the young people than I felt I could communicate with anybody my age or older. So again, putting that into the perspective of looking at it from autism, the reason why I found it so hard to communicate with people my age and older was because I wasn't understanding their experiences, where they were coming from, the social cues, the social norms, the in-jokes, the sarcasm threw me completely. But people younger than me, I was like, yeah, I've been there, I've worked that out, I know what you're talking about. I know the jokes that go about for like that age group, it all made sense. So I felt like I could navigate that really well. And also, obviously, a lot of the kids that I was working with, because they're out of school or perhaps in gang culture or just declared as naughty, quite often are neurodivergent themselves. So I was just vibing with these kids and doing really, really well, and really enjoyed that time. I then moved from that thinking I could do more, I could help. What I saw with those kids was a lot of them had come from like care. A lot of them had had very difficult family lives. So I thought I need to sort of like go backstream to help the kids before they got to that point.
Yeah.
So I started working with kids in care, and particularly an attachment care home, attachment disorder care home. really challenging, really challenging. Loved working with the kids, really struggled working with my colleagues and peers and what have you. I got to a point where I felt I was too old to be cool with these kids anymore.
Yeah.
So they were seeing me as another sort of grown up, another adversary, somebody telling them what to do rather than somebody on their level. So I thought, right, got to move from this. So I started then looking at caring for adults, and I became a personal carer, a sort of like health carer, with a team of other carers for one lady, an elderly lady in her home. She had an acquired brain injury and required 24/7 care. So most of it was social, but there was sort of some nursing elements to it. And I found I really, really loved that. So this lady had a peg feed. For anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's basically a tube that goes into the tummy and syringe liquid food in and drinks and medicine. Really enjoyed that sort of like technical side of it. And also, again, with me being autistic and ADHD and very, very anxious as a child, I had done a lot of deep diving into health conditions. Like I'd read encyclopedias like it was going out of fashion, health books, you know. So I had quite a broad understanding of a lot of health conditions, not in depth, but sort of like, you know, and a few ideas about medications and stuff like that. You know, I was, and, you know, quite a clever kid and quite a clever adult. I picked these things up really quickly. And while I was working for that lady, I absolutely enjoyed, I absolutely loved working there. It felt like working for a family rather than, it felt like being part of a family rather than sort of corporate stuff. And I really, really vibed with that. And the nurse professionals that would come in to look after this lady and do all her specific stuff would often tell me, you should go into nursing. You'd be really, really good at it. And I was like, maybe. By this point, I was in my 30s and was sort of going, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. Anyway, I just bit the bullet and went for it and quit my job and I got a place at Sheffield Hallam University for adult nursing. And the university experience was amazing. I was in my late 30s. I loved the university environment. I managed the social bit because everybody was so much younger than me. So again, the fact that I'm a little bit kooky and a little bit weird, a little bit maybe erratic, is that the right word? Very
erratic is one word we could use.
Are you saying that sarcastically, David?
No, I'm saying that all of us are erratic.
So I because I was older, that was kind of disregarded. People just went, oh, that's Adele, you know, she's just kooky, but she knows her stuff and she's kind and she'll chat to anybody. So I got accepted. I became like the mum in the group, and that's, you know, I sat quite well there, and that was okay. I loved learning. I loved being in the library. I loved the deep dives of all the information. I loved all the sort of the fact that nursing it's evidence-based. It's very rule-based. There are protocols. So there is one way to do it. Well, there are actually there's more than one way, but there's one approved way of doing it. So to me, it was heaven, because like black and white, you're either doing it right or you're doing it wrong. And
fun fact about university libraries, the chemistry books taste different from the other books.
I won't ask how you know that, David.
Let's just say, you know, I was in a weird place when I was at university. I was not in recovery as I am now.
Is that because they were in laboratories and got dripped on?
No, they were in the basement of the library. And
no, but I mean taken out.
Possibly. I have no idea what I licked, but it tasted different to the other books. I sampled a lot of books that night.
Oh, dear me. I loved the library. It was great. What I loved best about, I don't know if anybody's ever been to Sheffield Hallam University Library, but it has the most wonderful, I think probably a lot of modern libraries have this now, conference rooms and like soundproof rooms where you could book it out. So when I was feeling overwhelmed, I would just book out one of these rooms to myself. I had a PC, I had air conditioning, I had like glass doors that you could put blinds down. I could get up, I could stim, I could talk to myself and get on with the work without being in that sort of environment with people looking at you library. And I really, really appreciated that. Anyway, I got through with a first, which kind of blew my mind of how well I did. And it gave me a lot of confidence. The other thing that I really loved about university healthcare was that they gave you a lot of feeling like you were the change makers. You were the people that could really make a difference in people's lives, that you could be the next big thing in nursing protocols. You know, you could change the nursing world for the better. And I felt really empowered and really like I'm about to do something really important. I'm about to help a lot of people, and it really touched something in me.
Just a quick question. Someone says, when you say talk to yourself, do you mean it literally? Because they do that and they thought they were an absolute freak.
DJ Debbie, yes, I literally mean talking to myself. At home, I will talk to myself in the mirror for many, many reasons. Conversations that I've had earlier in the day that I've wanted to replay, things that I've said to people, or conversations I'm about to have. I will I will script them in the mirror. I'll look at how my face is, how my mouth is moving, how my hands are moving, you know, and sort of try and make myself look neurotypical as possible, normal as possible.
And as for me, I'm schizophrenic, so need I say more on this point?
So yeah, I've always talked to myself, and yeah, Debbie, thank God. I thought it was just me. It took a huge weight off my shoulders. Oh, honey, I'm so glad. I grew up in a very neurodivergent family. Again, none of us diagnosed, but definitely. And my dad constantly talked to himself. So it was never something that I ever felt was weird until friends saw me do it. And they were like, what are you doing? And then I realized this isn't typical, and sort of like hid it. But talking to myself is something that's very important for me in terms of emotional regulation, in terms of getting my thoughts in order, planning stuff. Yeah, that sort of thing. So yeah, talking to yourself is not weird. It's all good. Where was I? Oh yeah, I started working as a nurse in the NHS. And that is when I realised that maybe I made a bit of a mistake wanting to be a nurse. I loved the work. I loved helping people. I loved the sort of practicality of it. So nursing, when you nurse on a ward, you've got 12 hours to do certain tasks, and you've got so many patients, and you've got to do there's tasks to do in the day that you have to achieve by the end of your shift. So what I enjoyed about the nursing was there was a very clear structure. You know, times for medications, times for lunch, times for doing blood pressures and observations. There was times for checking skin. There was times for showers and all that kind of thing. That bit I liked. I could get on board with that. I could even manage when scary things came up. So like unexpected things, I could manage to a point because I was trained for it. If too many unexpected things came up or too many extra demands came up, that's where I fell down. And I found that my spoons disappeared very, very quickly. The other thing that I found really, really challenging about working in a hospital setting with other healthcare professionals is you would be surprised at how little sympathy there is for colleagues who are not working at full capacity, like 100% all the time. So you would think that maybe healthcare professionals would understand about illness or mental illness or stress or anything like that. They do for patients, but not for colleagues, not for each other. And so if you show any kind of sign of weakness or not managing, you are looked down upon and treated as such. And I couldn't manage with that. The other thing was the hierarchy that I also couldn't manage. There was a thing about how, like, anybody who was more senior to you, doctors, senior nurses, people who'd been there since the year dot, there's a culture in the NHS, and I think in general for healthcare practitioners, that you can't ask questions of them or criticise or point out mistakes. It's really looked down upon. And I couldn't get on board with that because, you know, there's a right way and a wrong way of doing things. In my mind, I was like, but they're doing it wrong. And there was a couple of times where I got into trouble or just had words. You know, my managers had words and said, no, you can't do that. You can't say this. You can't tell the consultant that he's being a jerk. Even if he is being a jerk, you can't tell him. So, yeah, I couldn't really get on board with that. And then the other thing that I really struggled with was university had told me that I could change healthcare for the better. I could, you know, really, really put my ideas forward. I could research it. I could be taken seriously because I'm a professional. The reality of it was that you could come with a stack of research and papers and everything. If it wasn't something that the higher ups were interested in, they just shut it down completely. So all that sort of creativity that I thought I might have in the job, sort of professional responsibility, was whipped away from me, and that hurt. Debbie, you said then you were the problem. Yes, 100%. I was the problem because I was rocking the boat, stepping outside of my boundaries. And there were all social norms that I couldn't really understand. So in my mind, if somebody's doing something wrong, then it doesn't matter who they are, they need to be picked up on that, particularly in a healthcare setting, particularly if that person's going to do something that's potentially harmful to a patient. Thankfully, those things, in my experience, didn't happen very often, but when they did, it was, I think it's shown in the media that whistleblowing is a difficult thing to do in the NHS. I think that's been shown a few times. And I think that's very true, sadly. And it is down to this culture of hierarchy. So, yeah, I found that really difficult. Debbie's put, speaking up for yourself and advocating for yourself becomes being difficult, problematic, etc. Absolutely, yeah. And of course, when you're autistic, you quite often say things very bluntly, just say it how it is, and not wanting to cause offence or not being, I certainly would never want to be offensive to anybody or upset or hurt anybody. But often just saying a clear truth how it is can be perceived negatively from people receiving that truth. And that can have an effect on your working relationships, on your career, how you're treated as a colleague. Debbie's put, yes, comes across as rude, aggressive or angry rather than frustration or anxiety. Yeah. And me personally, when I get frustrated or angry, it comes out as tears. I really wish it didn't, but it does. Every time it comes out as tears. And then people think that I'm not to be taken seriously. I'm a bit of a delicate flower.
You get seen as unstable.
100%.
Because I do the same, and people just see an unstable person.
Yeah.
They don't seem to see that it's a person who is overwhelmed and frustrated.
And passionate and cares absolutely deeply about what they're saying. It is really difficult.
Yeah.
I was actually really fortunate and got promoted pretty quickly because I think they realised quite quickly that I had ambitions and a specific skill set, and they said, you need to be on the infection prevention team. And I went, let's do it. And that role, it wasn't patient facing as such, although I did have opportunities to do patient care. It was more of an education role and a monitoring role. So the entire hospital trust, our team collected data from any sort of public health infections, also, you know, people who were at risk of sepsis, that kind of thing. So our training was about reducing infection. It was about monitoring outbreaks. It was, you know, putting people inside wards, managing beds, that kind of thing. And I thoroughly enjoyed that because, again, there's a clear right and wrong way to do it. And I had carte blanche as IP team to speak to any member of staff that wasn't following protocol. So that meant I could quite easily go up to the consultant who hadn't washed his hands before he went to go and see this patient, this elderly patient, and then walked away to write in his notes without washing his hands again. And if I spotted one on the ward doing that, I was over on them like a shot, saying, you should know better, Mr. So-and-so. They didn't like it, but they had to take it because that was my role. Oh, Colin, hello, Colin, on a dog walk with Betsy. Oh, hello, Betsy. Oh, look, there's lovely Betsy. Oh, sweet. And I thoroughly enjoyed that role. I think looking back, my career, I think I probably should have been in not so much a patient-facing role, but more sort of like nursing research or nursing academia. Probably would have suited me better looking back. But what actually happened was it all started to become a bit too much, and my old panic attacks and agoraphobia came back with a vengeance. And I suddenly couldn't go to work anymore. I just could not function. I hit another autistic overwhelm burnout. And yeah, that sort of lasted up until 2022 when I got really poorly. And then that's when I found out, after being on waiting list forevermore, that I'm ADHD and autistic. So here we are today. So
we're also munchkins, apparently.
We are. Although, David, I think you're a little bit too tall to be a munchkin.
Oh, I could be a munchkin.
I don't know why the word munchkin makes me think of Jaffa cakes.
Oh, now I want some Jaffa cakes.
I also wanted to say that the number of neurodivergent healthcare professionals is probably a lot higher than in other professions. Do you know what I mean? The percentage of neurodivergent staff is probably a lot higher in healthcare. Doctors, pharmacists in the laboratory, the microbiology labs, nurses, some nurses, especially specialist nurses. So things like the pain specialist nurses and the diabetic nurses and the respiratory nurses and the cardiac nurses, the specialist ones, they deep dive so much and are so passionate about their particular specialty. A lot of them, I think, probably are autistic. And I think most nurses are ADHD as well, because the amount of energy you have to keep going for those 12 hours at that speed, at that level, I think you have to have an element of that sort of high energy drive about you. One of the other things I found as well, I'd do a 12-hour shift, and when I came home, I was completely zombified. So I just doom scroll on my phone, couldn't really speak, all the executive function had gone. So I was finding it hard to look after my kids. I was finding it hard to look after my house, to cook meals, just to remember appointments and stuff like that. And I had to put all of my energy into the nursing. I couldn't sort of step back a bit.
Well, thank you for sharing all that with us. I think it's a really interesting insight into what it's like to be the neurodivergent healthcare professional. And I think, we have to consider that, there's a lot more neurodivergent people in that profession than we realize.
Yeah.
And they may be experiencing similar strains and struggles. But on the flip side, we have the patient experience as well, which is a challenge.
Yes.
I think about my experience of trying to communicate pain to doctors. The doctors simply did not believe me on how much pain I was in, because I didn't look like I was in that much pain, to them anyway. But, I can be in high amounts of pain and sat here talking to you like this. And because it's not the performance that medical staff were trained to look for, they would assume they always brought out that weird visual guide, with the smiley faces. And I was like, no, because my face doesn't communicate what's going on. Like, you know, I could be talking to you like this whilst my legs hanging off. So
yeah. There are specialist nurses. They're called learning disability and autism nurses, and I think it's interesting that those are put together like that, and it's almost seen as if you're autistic, then you have a learning disability, which of course is not true.
Yeah.
Or that you're somehow impaired, incapable, I don't know. But yes, you're right. Training is scant for healthcare professionals regarding autism. It is not well understood how autistic people often present atypically, and they often react to medication atypically as well. So the doctor will give you something and say, oh, this will knock you out, and lo and behold, you're still awake and chatting away saying, I'm in terrible amounts of pain, doctor. And they are like, this doesn't make sense. There's a lot of that. There's also something called the unpopular patient in healthcare circles. The unpopular patient is somebody who the healthcare professionals experience something called care fatigue around. So care fatigue is when, I mean, it's a nice word for a very unpleasant thing, really. Care fatigue is when you stop caring about the patient, sadly. So the patient that constantly says, can I have another pillow? Can I have another blanket? Can I have this? Can I have that? So a neurodivergent patient who perhaps finds the bedding extremely uncomfortable from a sensory point of view could very easily become an unpopular patient, because they're constantly asking for change in their room. You know, turn this light off. Can you shut this door? Can you do, you know, all that sort of thing. Also, patients who complain about pain a lot, despite being given adequate pain relief, can become an unpopular patient.
I remember waking up from a seizure to a doctor rating it out of 10 because he thought I was faking it.
Yes, 100%. So that is classic compassion fatigue. So they're like, I've seen a bajillion of these before, and yours doesn't look anything like what I have seen in the past, therefore it is not real.
Well, to be fair, he gave me a 7 out of 10, so. But still, waking up to someone rating your seizure, like, you know, it's annoying. It's annoying that healthcare professionals, when they do stuff like that, so often don't get called up on it.
Yes. So again, you know, if I was the nurse in that room, and I have been the nurse in that room where a doctor has been extremely cruel with the language that they've used, dismissive, and I have later gone to that doctor and said, you know, that was uncalled for. I have been told to mind my own business. And then go to my higher ups, report it, and they go, thank you for that. And I never hear of anything again. You know, that's the kind of culture I couldn't get on board with.
Defensive practice.
Yes. So I'm just reading what Debbie's put here, and my heart is breaking for you, Debbie. So our needs for comfort make them uncomfortable. So our needs for comfort, if they are not classed as normal comfort needs, so perhaps we're too much, then we're seen as a burden. Because right, let's look at this logically. Nurses are run off their feet. They do an amazing job. They are spinning a bajillion plates at once, and quite often, you know, they're dealing with life and death situations here, you know, very stressful situations. People are extremely ill around them. If you're seen as somebody who is perhaps demanding more than they should, or taking more of that nurse's time than they should, then you are going to be looked down upon. You're going to be treated in that way, that you're being dramatic, you're being too much. And I have also been in many, many handovers where the patient has been described as dramatic, needy, doing the dying swan. She was doing a dying swan again today, and they brush it off, laugh about it, make jokes. Literally, it can be extremely cruel, and it's certainly not professional. And it's something that really needs to be addressed in healthcare culture.
It's disturbing that healthcare culture has become that, and I think in part it has to do with the defunding and loss of resources to healthcare, particularly in the UK. And so you've got staff who are more stressed than ever, who are lower on numbers than ever, with higher increase in demand than ever.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why the culture has become toxic. It's because people are burning out and not able to function in their role anymore. They're not able to carry that compassion forward because they're being expected to run on fumes.
Yes. And what we saw during COVID was an already extremely overstressed system being pushed way past its breaking point. Mm. And so many staff have quit healthcare because they are so utterly traumatized by the culture, by the work, by what they were expected to do during that time, to keep showing up without any support or help, being told to do more with less. Don't show any signs of weakness. Don't show any signs of stopping, you know, don't be human, don't have feelings. And people just couldn't do it anymore. So we've lost a large chunk of extremely wonderful professionals, dedicated, hardworking, brilliant professionals, because the resources and the culture has just crushed them. The lack of resources, the political state of the NHS has literally crushed the staff. And yes, Debbie's put, we're tackling a broken system while they're working on it. Helen, I will come to your point about healthcare passports. Or shall I do it now?
We can do, yeah.
Yes, I wanted to acknowledge what Debbie put in the comments. Debbie, are you happy for me to read it out?
Yeah, I didn't want to pin that comment without permission.
Yes.
So Debbie, your comment about what happened to you with the ambulance staff, let us know if you're happy for us to discuss that out loud.
You know, I would like to address it, and if you don't, you are happy. Oh, Debbie, thank you so much. Thanks for your permission. So yeah, Debbie's put, I took OD, called a loser by ambulance staff and labelled dramatic. And I just don't have words for that. That is horrendous.
So I can speak to this because I was ambulance staff at one point, and I will say the majority of people working on ambulances are wonderful people who really want to do right, and often they are arguing the toss with doctors who are, you know, they're bringing patients in and doctors are going, no, you can put them in the waiting room, and ambulance staff going, absolutely not, like this patient needs to be in majors being observed, and they have to tackle that. But I have seen personally someone else in a similar position to this who was unconscious on the grass, and the ambulance staff kicked him and said, "Get up, I don't have time for this." That's an assault.
Yeah.
And nothing ever got done about it.
No. And we could consider the reasons why somebody would behave like that, professional healthcare who... Nobody goes into being a healthcare professional to harm people. I fully believe that. I mean, maybe there's one psychopath in a generation that does, but I think in general, 99.9% of people go into healthcare professional work because they genuinely care and want to help people. I think what happens is the stress.
The culture breaks them.
The culture breaks them. The lack of resources, time pressures. They just stop seeing the patient as a human being and just see them as a task to be completed.
I want to give a trigger warning here as well, because to give an example of what it's like to be ambulance staff, I'll tell you about something that happened 5 minutes into my first shift as ambulance staff. And we were posted at a race course where a horse race was happening, and the vet reversed his 4x4 off an embankment and landed on 3 cars and 6 people. So within 5 minutes of my first ever shift as ambulance staff, I was dealing with catastrophic and life-threatening injuries. We had to call the air ambulance in. It was total chaos, and we were also the first ambulance on scene, which meant we were coordinating a lot of that. And then we finished that, and we were just expected to do the next 8 hours of our shift. And it was just like, you know, we'd just witnessed catastrophic injuries, and we're wondering if people we treated were going to survive. But now we have to carry on and do the next 8 hours. And there was no debrief either.
Nope.
No one did a debrief.
You expect, and that's the expectation as well, you know, that you, as a nurse on a ward as well, especially a long-term ward, you develop relationships with the patients and the patients' families, and you care very deeply about people. And, you know, when the worst happens, you are not given time to grieve. You're not given time to even take a breath. No. It's right, come on, get your paperwork done. This is the job. This is the nature of it. And you yourself are not treated like a human with feelings.
It was actually the same in forensics. You know, we were seeing awful, awful things that no one should have to see. And we were expected to just compartmentalize it, do our paperwork, move on to the next crime scene. You know, there were some awful, awful things that you were, and it's the same in healthcare. You will see some of the worst things that this world has to offer, and you're expected to just bite that bullet and carry on.
Carry on, yeah. Debbie also asked me, did you find you absorbed other people's energies at all? Almost feel what they were feeling and carry it with you? 100%. So I have hyper empathy. I absorb feelings all the time, anywhere that I am, and often find it really overwhelming. So in a hospital setting, of course, when people are frightened or people are dying, or, you know, they're fearing the worst, it's a very emotive, stressful environment to be in. I constantly absorbed that. I also had, as was described by my manager once, an affinity for the difficult, challenging patient. And my manager said, you know, you seem to calm them and do well with them. Oh, what's your secret? And I think what the secret was I empathized.
Yeah.
I empathized. I thought, how would I feel in that situation? Yeah, I would feel the same. And I validated people whenever I could. Debbie's put, oh, good, can work with me then. I could never do the veneer of professionalism, that sort of cold, you know, if something crappy was happening to somebody, I would say, this is crappy that's happening to you, and I'm so sorry, and let's see what we can do to fix it. I will, you know, one thing I used to say a lot is, I will do my absolute best by you. I can promise you that. And I stick to my promises. My word is my bond. And that was something I was very proud of as a nurse, that I might not be able to fix something or get the outcome that they want, but I know I will have done my absolute best to make that happen, to get the best possible outcome. And that was probably another reason why I burnt out, because I gave everything to every patient that I had. And I know I worked alongside a lot of colleagues who did that as well, but there were also the colleagues that did the bare minimum. They were like, literally, this is legally what I have to do, but they did not, for what, I don't know for what reason, and I won't speculate, but they did not form any kind of emotional bond with the patient in any way, shape or form.
We're coming towards the end, and I'm wondering if it might be helpful if we gave some advice,
yes,
on how to communicate, how to make use of the healthcare system as best we can.
So there is part of the healthcare system that is really, really good, is that there are protocols and there are tools that all healthcare professionals use. And one really good tool that they use is called SBAR, and it is a communication tool. And we as patients can also use this communication tool to speak to healthcare professionals. And SBAR is a way of getting across vital information about a patient or about yourself in a way that is concise and also gives all the information that the recipient needs. So it stands for situation, background, action, and that brain
reaction.
No, it's what you want them to do.
Response.
Yeah, response, but it's a different word, but it's recommendation. There you go. It's what you want them to do. Recommendation. Sorry.
So what was that? Situation, background, action, recommendation.
So situation is what's happening right now. So say I go to the GP and I have had a week of vomiting and diarrhea. Let's make it really glamorous. So I go to the doctor and I say, doctor, situation. I have been vomiting and diarrhea for a week. I have not been able to hold down any food or drink. I feel dizzy, I feel tired, and I've got a temperature. Okay, that's what's happening right now. Background. Background is what happened before the symptoms started and any relevant information. So let's say I'm diabetic, okay? So I would say, I had gone out for a meal in a restaurant. I ate shellfish and drank champagne, had a fantastic time, and I started feeling sick after that. I am diabetic, and my blood sugars are erratic at the moment. They were well controlled, but while I'm being sick and having diarrhea, my blood sugars are like this. Okay, so that's that is all the really important information about what's happening now. Action. Okay, so this as a patient is what you have tried to do to help yourself already. So you could say, I've taken paracetamol for the temperature, but I can't keep it down. I've used over-the-counter Imodium, and that's not worked. Over-the-counter anti-sickness, that's not worked. I've tried drinking ginger tea, and that's not helped. So you've sort of like all the things that the doctor might already suggest that you do, you've already told them.
And of course, any actions you took to regulate your blood sugar as well.
Absolutely, you know, and how those things have worked. Have they helped? Have they not? And then recommendation. So this is a bit tricky here. So recommendation from a healthcare point of view, speaking to another healthcare, would be what I want you to do about it. As a patient, you've got to be kind of careful how you say this, because some doctors will go, oh yeah, really? Is that what you want me to do this? Well, because they can be a bit snobby. But recommendation would be something like, can you help me regulate my blood sugars? Can you check whether or not I'm dehydrated and need to go to hospital? You know, sort of like what your concerns are. I'm concerned, I'm dehydrated, I'm concerned my blood sugars aren't regulated, I'm concerned I'm not getting better. What can you do about it, doctor? So I think using that SBAR tool, so I'll say it again, situation, background, action, recommendation, is a really good way of getting all the important information across concisely in a format that doctors are used to hearing.
We can get a blog written as well explaining SBAR and just post a blog out so it's there for people to refer to.
Yeah. Another good tip for communicating with healthcare professionals is to write down what the main points, what it is you want to say. Because I don't know if you're like me, but as soon as I go into the doctor's, brain goes blank. I also forget words, as you saw before when I couldn't remember recommendation, words go. And I forget like important things like, oh yeah, a week ago I did this and then I got sick after that, you know? So before your appointment, write it down, key points, bullet points, because that can, as a memory aid, but also it'll help the doctor as well if you start to struggle with your speech, or if you're finding the whole being with a doctor really overwhelming. You can, and I recommend that you do, if you feel comfortable, take somebody with you, an advocate, a friend, somebody who can, that you're happy can speak for you or can help you to communicate what it is you're trying to say, what you're trying to get across. Having somebody with you is a really good help. You can also, if you're in hospital or GP setting or dentist or any healthcare setting, you can ask for a chaperone. So somebody to be with you, and you can explain to the chaperone, I have communication difficulties or I have anxiety and I need you to do X, Y, and Z for me. And that can really help. Yes, healthcare passports was the other thing that was put up. Healthcare passports, for anybody who doesn't know, are sort of documents that you take, that you keep yourself, about your condition. Now, you can have these for all sorts of things, but the autism one is specifically about your communication, what makes you more comfortable, what makes you less comfortable, how to communicate to you, how not to communicate to you, sensory issues, all that sort of thing. They can be downloaded from the NHS website or from your your local NHS Trust website. These can be useful documents. Certainly they have all the information there. My experience as a healthcare professional is it's very hit and miss as to whether your healthcare professional will actually read it and take notice of it. It's all well and good you writing this down and handing it to them, but if they just see a bunch of paper and they go, I ain't got time for that, it's useless. So if you find that your healthcare professional has not read your passport, and it's very clear that they haven't because they haven't got a clue what you're talking about, point them to it. They have to read it. It is part of their duty. They have to. So they can huff and puff and roll their eyes all they want. They have to read it and they have to notice. it's a legal requirement.
And I think also, as well as a blog, I might put together like a pro forma for people using the S-Bar tool, so they can, if they want, they can print it out, write what they want to communicate, and take that with them to the doctor. I can probably get that out by next week. So.
Yeah. One last thing, I very quickly felt like coming up for an hour. Just one last thing, very quickly. Before I go, and it's completely gone out of my brain, David. I was going to say something really important. Health diary. It's come back. If you are suffering with a long-term condition, it's well worth keeping a healthcare diary. Just the bullet points of what happens, what makes things worse, what makes things better, good days, bad days, energy levels, all that kind of thing. If you can keep a healthcare diary, that's something that's very useful to take to doctors, in particular GP surgeries, and they can get a really good overview of what's happening for you without you having to remember all the details. There you go.
There we go. I've got an idea for some resources we can put out now. So
yes, we've just got to write them.
Yeah. But I feel like they're actually quite simple to write.
Yeah, true. But there is loads of information I can help people with. If anybody wants to talk to me about accessing healthcare, you can contact me at NeuroHub, or my email, adele@neurohubcommunity.org.
Yep.
And yeah, so you can contact me, and I'm very happy to talk and give support and advice. What I can't do is, I'm no longer a registered nurse, so I cannot give any medical advice. Just saying that.
But we will get some resources done. We are also working on a proper accessing healthcare course, which will be done in time. But at the moment, we're quite focused on the Autistic Mental Health Conference that is in, 3 weeks' time now?
That's the focus, the Autistic Mental Health Conference. It's going to be huge. It's going to be so informative. It's going to be just, I'm so excited.
When I did the maths earlier, yesterday, we currently have 22 confirmed speakers. 23 if you include me. So
yeah, we do include you, David. Of course we do.
But I'm doing it in tandem with one of the other speakers. So it's 22 presentations from 23 speakers, and it's going to be massive. And
maybe next year I'll speak, who knows?
If you go to neurohubcommunity.org, you will find it very easy to find the tickets for the mental health conference. They are quite pricey. We do currently have a discount code until the 31st for 20% off, which is DISAPR20. So that's DISAPR20. And it's also important to know that if you still can't afford the tickets, email me at david@neurohubcommunity.org, and we'll agree an affordable price for you, to make sure you can attend and get the most out of that conference. If the finances are really tight, we're always happy to help out and make it affordable.
Yeah.
So please do check out the mental health conference. It's neurohubcommunity.org, and I think you'll find it's a really important conference to attend. It went really well last year, got really good feedback. So
yeah.
But then after that, we will work on some other stuff like the Accessing Healthcare course.
Yes, that's my next big thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've been distracted by the conference and the websites.
Yes.
But I will do the healthcare thing.
Just a reminder, you can donate to this live stream to support the work we do. This live stream is delivered to you for free, but the software costs us about £70 a month. So if you are able to make a small donation, you can do so at bit.ly/neurohub-live, which is on screen right now. I'll leave it on screen a bit longer, but if you can make a donation, it really, really helps us, maintain the affordability of doing stuff like this for free. And eventually we'd like to make enough money to pay our speakers as well. But, you know, we're working on that. We're a small company at the moment. I think we look a lot bigger than we actually are.
We support a lot of people
Yeah.
worldwide.
And also, don't forget our online community on the Heartbeat app, connect.neurohubcommunity.org.
Yes, and the community is free to join, but there are paid tiers for other resources and access. But again, that sort of payment helps us run things behind the scenes. Yeah, running websites and providing conferences and all that kind of thing costs us money. So we need to.
And we're also inviting organizations to sponsor us. So if you're an organization and you want to sponsor our work, we're doing a sponsorship package of £100 a month, and we'll list you on our website. We'll do stuff to support you. Just if you've got the means to sponsor us, please do so.
Please do so,
because it really helps us do the work we do. You know, we work one-to-one with people. We do group peer support. We do all manner of things
as well now, which I'm really excited about.
Yes, our family support work is flourishing quite quickly.
Yes, it is. Yes,
so,
there's a lot of neurodivergent families out there that need help and support.
Yeah,
and of course, we have lived experience. We're not just professionals in this. We're also neurodivergent people with neurodivergent families, and you know, we know exactly what it's like. So thank you, everybody. And Debbie's put, will contribute as soon as I can. Your work is so important. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Debbie.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Right. Well, I'm going to let our viewers go now. Adele, if you hold on, we'll still be here after it's stopped being live.
Yeah.
And I will see you all in the next live stream, which is actually after the weekend on Monday. And my mother will be part of that. So that'll be fun. And, hopefully Adele will be free and she can come join us too.
I think I'll be there. I've got to be David's mum. Well,
thank you to everyone who tuned into this, and I hope it was helpful to you. If you have any questions, email us, david@neurohubcommunity.org or adele@neurohubcommunity.org. We'll be there. Take care, and we'll see you on Monday. Goodbye.
Bye.